And so the author says, sins of the ear, section 33, which that's not actually from the Shaykh, the numbering like that. Among the sins of the ear are to listen to a conversation of persons who kept it hidden from one. Yani, not sure why they didn't say people. To listen to a conversation of people, or to listen to some people's conversation, to listen to the conversation of some people who kept it hidden from one. Yani, for someone to listen to a conversation of some people who kept that conversation hidden from him. Yani, it was a private conversation. This is a form of forbidden spying. Spying on the Muslim, that's haram, and on the Muslims. And searching for their defects, that's haram. Let that be for you a red flag, brothers and sisters. You find the people who are bringing to you the vitriol and the slander and the defamation, to listen to the flute or the tambur, because both are classified as unlawful musical instruments. Flute, which is a wind instrument, what they call wind instrument. The word wind wasn't coming to me. The word air was coming to me. I was like, no, that's not the one. It's a wind instrument. Sometimes they make it from wood, sometimes they make it from metal. Or the tambur, which is a stringed instrument or a string instrument. So those are just examples. As for the flute, or the mizmar, you might translate that as pipe. Then that's mentioned in a hadith by name. That one is named to be a cursed sound, a damned sound. Interestingly, some non-Muslim people, they have folklores about people who would play the flute and hypnotize their children. And so, flute, that's a wind instrument, and this is just an example here only. All the wind instruments have the same judgment. And the tambur, that's some sort of guitar. That's a string instrument. All the string instruments have the same judgment. But even the words I just said now, really, it needs a little bit of clarity here. Let me just read everything here first. It says, because both are classified as unlawful musical instruments. The latter being a stringed instrument that resembles the lute. Yani, it's a type of guitar, the tambur. And evokes feelings of elation and ecstasy, yani, enchantment, euphoria. Maybe in modern times they'll say releases what? Some hormones in you, they would say. Like, I don't know those words they say. Endorphins and I don't know what. This means something will happen within you and then you feel some pleasure. Like some uh, enchanting feeling. That's what they say. And it is prohibited to listen to the rest of the unlawful sounds. Dopamine. Barakallahu feek. Yeah. Okay. So, what exactly is haram here? The actual prohibition goes back to, or the prohibition goes back to something actually more specific than being a wind instrument or a string instrument, which is the power to enchant without being blended with other sounds. The power to enchant without being blended with other sounds. That means even without an entire band, you don't have a whole band, just a solo of that one instrument can cause the electricity as it's worded here. So that's the rule. And what does that? It's going to be your wind instruments and your string instruments, as opposed to your percussion instruments like drums and xylophones. And also, as opposed to potentially some electronic sounds. Hmm. So, according to that, the bugle is not haram. The bugle, which is a horn. So you're going to see some scouts or some soldiers, Muslim scouts or Muslim soldiers, blowing a horn. And then if you saw that and you didn't know, like I didn't know, and you saw the Muslim scouts blowing a horn in front of the masjid, and then you say, what? So then, yani, if you do know, then you're not going to be struck by that. You're going to say, oh, that one's not haram. Why is not haram? Because it doesn't actually have the reason to be haram, which is the enchanting effect, because it's not enchanting. It is rather annoying, disturbing, irking.
Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Uh, Back to the I think you said something about what you call that? The instruments with the, the electrical instruments, like they
Yeah,
imitate the string instruments and stuff like that. What about
yes.
them?
Okay. So the rule still stands there. The rule is one rule. But those sounds fundamentally, yani, like a lot of the times or most of the times, they don't have the same effect as the actual instruments do. But as the technology improved, it got harder and harder to tell the difference between real and synthesized sounds sometimes. And some of those synthesized sounds, maybe they do actually have that power that maybe some of those synthesized sounds do have such a power that some of the wind and string instruments have. And also, some of the people, they cannot tell the difference, like because they're not experts in that, or they don't have a lot of experience in that. Well, some people, they can tell the difference, like people who have experience in music and like recording and sound design, sound engineering. They can tell the difference between those. A lot of times, maybe sometimes still can't.
So the artificial sound is still the rule still does apply to that.
The
That's
rule
what
still applies, yeah, but most of the time, the artificial sound is not enchanting. Don't forget what the rule is. Enchanting by itself, not yani what's how are we gonna deem that is haram? The rule is when it is independently enchanting without being blended with other sounds. Yani just a solo of the instrument is enough to be enchanting, then that's haram. So most of those electronic sounds are not like that. if you play something, some synthesized sound, some keyboard sound that's just artificial sound. You're welcome. You said some people feel the opposite, i.e., they hear the flute and they become sad and even start crying. I'm guessing this still falls under the same judgment of being prohibited. Yeah, this it maybe has such effect. It's like these instruments, they tap your soul somehow, and then you will be happy, or you'll be sad, or you'll be angry. So you're gonna go to, yeah, not go to, you're gonna pass by, for example, some heavy metal guys, and they're playing electric guitars really loud, and they're all banging their heads and ready to fight. Or somebody wants to do something. So what does he do? Yani, all sorts of things. So what does he do? Like maybe he wants to go murder somebody, for example. So what he's going to do? He's going to put on some music, for example. Maybe not. Yeah, it depends on the person. Might be too serious to put some music on, but they might also. It's like something that gets him going, and like that sets a mood. And like the category called drill music today. Yeah, but that if they don't sample like actually haram sounds, it's not going to be haram. A lot of those are just all electronic sounds. The drums, electronic, all what they have in the background is just computer generated stuff. We're not going to say that it's not haram to listen to the recordings of these instruments because it's not the actual instrument, it's coming out the speaker. Because it comes out the speaker also with the effect that the instrument has. Yani, if the sound is not like muffled out or something, if the speaker is like functioning properly and sound's not muffled, then the sound's just going to come out just like it went in. Louder though, you turn it up. So what about drill music? I said that what they call drill music mostly is just electronic sounds. From what I heard, Yani, I don't listen to it all the time. Yani, I don't listen to it really. From what I heard, it's mostly just electronic sounds. Possibly they're going to sample actual instruments. It's very, very possible. But a lot of times it's just all electronic synthesized sounds. He said, is there a similar judgment pertaining to certain types of drums, or does that have more to do with playing them instead? Drums are not haram to listen to. There is a drum that's haram to play, though. I didn't hear it's haram to hear it. I just heard it's haram to play it, which is that, what do you call that drum? The one that is thin in the middle and it's wide at the bottom and the top, and it's covered from both sides. This one is haram to play, but I didn't hear this haram to hear. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Can you tell me which drum is not?
Not permissible?
Yes.
Yeah, they said like darbuka. Here, I'll pull up an image of it, inshallah ta'ala. Let me Google this here. Bismillah. All right, see these drums? If you can see my screen here. It's thin in the middle, and it's wide at the bottom and the top, and it's covered from both sides. Can't play that one.
Thank you.
Well, so to listen to the flute or the tambur, because both are classified as unlawful musical instruments for having that trait about them that we described, the latter being a stringed instrument that resembles the lute, yani it's a type of guitar, and evokes feelings of elation and ecstasy, or maybe some other feelings too. Meaning it evokes such feelings on its own without being blended, without being mixed, yani without an entire band, yani a band being two or more. But the drum is not haram to listen to, except that what I told you about, that's haram to play. Drum is not haram to listen to, even if it gives you energy. It's still not haram because the drums can give you energy. It is prohibited to listen to the rest, and it is prohibited to listen to the rest of the unlawful sounds, like what I told you. I saw a recording of someone who uh, he rigged a rubber band in such a way that he pulls the rubber band and then it's going to vibrate. And he has um, his microphone right there, yani professionally, like soundproof walls and all that, state of the art equipment, so he can capture the sound of this rubber band vibrating. So I'm afraid here. I don't know what the judgment is. But those string instruments, why I'm afraid here, because those string instruments, how they do what they do by the vibration of the string. So you play the guitar or the piano, when you hit the key, there's a hammer that comes down and hits the chord. It makes the chord vibrate. Or when you play the violin, you run the bow over the chord, makes the chords vibrate. And then the sound comes and touches you. But I don't know. I don't know. I'm just saying this to you to give you an idea how it goes. So then he said, likewise, to listen to backbiting and tail bearing and the like. So we talked about that. Listening to it. Yani, you're not stopping the person, even if you're not a backbiter yourself. May Allah protect us. But you're not stopping that person from the backbiting also. So you're listening to it. Among other sins of the tongue, yani listening to those sins of the tongue, without censoring the wrongdoer while being able to do so. This is contrary to the one who hears this unwillingly and hates it in his heart. However, if one is able, then one must oppose it using physical means. Yani he must compel that the stoppage of this. And if unable, then with verbal means. If he can't compel its desistance, then with verbal means he speaks against it. And if unable, one must hate it in his heart and leave the session in which the sin is being perpetrated. Know what some people might do? If you said to them, you can't say that, that's ghiba, that's haram, maybe they'll stop and look at you. They stare at you like, where are you from? Those are Muslims I'm talking about. Like, where'd this guy come from? And then if you got up and left, what they're going to do? Then they're just going to look at each other and continue. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ تَعَالَى.